بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين المصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد، سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد، وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On behalf of Imam Hussein Islamic Center, I would like to welcome you all to our program today. And I would like to first send my felicitations to the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, on the joyful and auspicious occasion of the birth anniversary of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And we have not sent you, O Muhammad, but as a mercy to the worlds. And inshallah, with that, we will begin tonight's program with a few more verses of the Holy Quran, followed by the recitation of Ziyarah. I would like to welcome brothers Murtada Sabiri and Ammar Kashfani to begin and bless our program with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما كان على النبي من حرج فيما فرض الله له، ما كان على النبي من حرج فيما فرض الله له، سنة الله في الذين خلوا من قبل، سنة الله في الذين خلوا من قبل، وكان أمر الله قدرا مقدورا. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله يبلغون رسالات الله والله شهيد على ما يفعلون. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله يبلغون رسالات الله والله شهيد على ما يفعلون. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله يبلغون رسالات الله والله شهيد على ما يفعلون. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله يبلغون رسالات الله والله شهيد على ما يفعلون. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله وكفى بالله حسيبا وكفى بالله حسيبا وكفى بالله حسيبا الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله وكفى بالله حسيبا ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم على حب الزهراء. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
محمد. زيارة على ياسين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. سلام على آل ياسين. السلام عليك يا داعي الله ورباني آياته. السلام عليك يا باب الله وديان دينه. السلام عليك يا خليفة الله وناصر حقه. السلام عليك يا حجة الله ودليل إرادته. السلام عليك يا تالي كتاب الله وترجمانه. السلام عليك في آناء ليلك وأطراف نهارك. السلام عليك يا بقية الله في أرضه. السلام عليك يا ميثاق الله الذي أخذه ووكده. السلام عليك يا وعد الله الذي ضمنه. السلام عليك أيها العلم المنصوب والعلم المصبوب والغوث والرحمة الواسعة وعدا غير مكذوب. السلام عليك حين تقوم. السلام عليك حين تقعد. السلام عليك حين تقرأ وتبين. السلام عليك حين تصلي وتقنت. السلام عليك حين تركع وتسجد. السلام عليك حين تهلل وتكبر. السلام عليك حين تحمد وتستغفر. السلام عليك حين تصبح وتمسي. السلام عليك في الليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى. السلام عليك أيها الإمام المأمون. السلام عليك أيها المقدم المأمون. السلام عليك بجوامع السلام. أشهدك يا مولاي أني أشهد أن لا إله إلا وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدًا عبده ورسوله لا حبيب إلا هو وأهله. وأشهدك يا مولاي أن عليًا أمير المؤمنين حجته والحسن حجة والحسين حجة وعلي بن الحسين حجة ومحمد بن علي حجة وجعفر بن محمد حجة وموسى بن جعفر حجة وعلي بن موسى حجة ومحمد بن علي حجة وعلي بن محمد حجة والحسن بن علي حجة وأشهد أنك حجة الله أنتم الأول والآخر وأن رجعتكم حق لا ريب فيها يوم لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا وأن الموت حق وأن ناكرا ونكيرا حق وأشهد أن النشر حق والبعث حق وأن الصراط حق والمرصاد حق والميزان حق والحشر حق والحساب حق والجنة والنار حق والوعد والوعيد بهما حق يا مولاي شقي من خالفكم وسعد من أطاعكم فاشهد على ما أشهدتك عليه وأنا ولي لك بريء من عدوك فالحق ما رضيتموه والباطل ما أسخطتموه والمعروف ما أمرتم به والمنكر ما نهيتم عنه فنفسي مؤمنة بالله وحده لا شريك له وبرسوله وبأمير المؤمنين وبكم يا مولاي أولكم وآخركم ونصرتي معدة لكم ومودتي خالصة لكم آمين آمين صلى على محمد وآل محمد والمؤمنات سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات
Thank you, brothers, for that beautiful recitation. For the well-being and quick reappearance of Imam al-Hujjah, please recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Just like to make some quick announcements for tonight. Please keep your phones on silent throughout the program. Toilets are upstairs for both the brothers and sisters. Ensure no cars are parked illegally, and we are respecting our neighbors by not blocking their driveways. Please sit as close to the front as possible to allow others arriving later in the program a place to sit, and also prioritize the chairs for those that are elderly and with medical conditions. And update that the tafsir of the Holy Quran program is now back and will resume the coming week on Thursday with Maghrib and Asha prayers followed by Dua Kumail. The Orphans Dinner by Hajj Fawzi will be on Sunday the 29th of October in Bankstown. If anyone needs any information or tickets for that event, please find Sister Feruzan for some information and the tickets on that. Don't forget to use these nights to donate generously for the cost and maintenance of Imam Hussein Islamic Center. Throughout the lecture, there will be donation buckets coming around. You can pay with EFTPOS or with cash. There won't be any children's classes today. However, there are activities set up for them outside. So if there are any children here, they can make their way out to the activities so they can benefit from them, inshallah. Now I'd like to call up Brother Ammar Kashfani to recite some nasheed for us, which will be followed by some verses of poetry by our brother Zak Alawi. Please recite and welcome them with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
محمد. صلى الله على محمد، صلى الله على النبي.
بأبي أنت وأمي يا رسول العربي.
صلى الله على محمد، صلى الله على النبي. بأبي أنت وأمي
يا رسول
العجمي. طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع، وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داعا. طلع البدر علينا
من ثنيات الوداع.
Prophet's birthday, let's go.
وجب
جب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داعا. Oh, the white moon rose over us from the valley of Wada, and we owe it to show gratefulness where the call is to Allah. Rasul Allah, Habib Allah, Nabi Allah wa Shafi' Allah. Rasul Allah,
حبيب الله
نبي الله والشفيع الله. صلى الله على محمد، صلى الله عليه وآله. صلى الله على محمد، صلى الله عليه وسلم. أيها المبعوث فينا، جئت بالأمر المطاع، جئت شرفت المدينة. مرحبا يا خير داعى. أيها المبعوث فينا، جئت بالأمر المطاع، جئت شرفت المدينة. مرحبا يا خير داع. Oh, you who were raised among us coming with a word to be obeyed. You have brought to the city nobleness. Welcome, best caller to God's way. Rasul Allah, Habib Allah, Nabi Allah, wa Shafi' Allah. Rasul Allah,
حبيب الله
نبي الله وشفيع الله. صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا حبيبي يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا حبيبي يا رسول الله يا نبي الله. My heart is full of longing. I wish to be close to my beloved. I dream to walk in the streets of Medina and to quench the thirst of my spirit by visiting you, O Muhammad. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا حبيبي يا نبي الله. السلام
عليك يا رسول الله.
السلام عليك يا حبيبي يا نبي الله يا رسول الله. I left all my troubles and worries as I entered your mosque so gently. As I finally stood there before you, I couldn't stop my tears from falling in your presence, O Muhammad. Assalamu alayka ya
رسول الله.
السلام عليك يا حبيبي يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا حبيبي يا نبي الله يا رسول الله. Oh Taiba, your breeze is so blessed. Indeed, it brought life back to my spirit. I left my heart with my beloved, sending blessings on Muhammad. Oh Taiba, your breeze is so blessed. Indeed, it brought life back to my spirit. I've left my heart with my beloved, sending blessings on Muhammad. Assalamu alayka ya Rasul Allah. Assalamu alayka ya Habibi ya Nabi Allah ya Rasul Allah. Allahumma صلي وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار. على
رسول الله
وآله الأطهار.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. When truth was lost and heart frozen, from you Allah came a prophet chosen. Blessed Prophet Muhammad, obedient to you, taught us the things we ought to do. He taught us for certain that you are one and neither have a daughter nor son. The crown of curation set with the richest gems, diamond and rubies invalued beyond ken, unequaled in brilliance, unique of kind, is the great prophet to all mankind. Rabi' al-Awwal, the 17th, that was the day he came to this world to show us the way. He was born in Mecca, the holiest place, a life full of challenges he was to face. Truthful by nature and of most saintly men, all called the trusty Al-Amin. Most loving to children, courteous to all, to animals, tender alike to great and small. Never on earth a nobler soul has trod, never has another shown a truer way. He will never refuse to help an orphan. He made sure they were never forgotten. As he once said, the best household among Muslims is a household when in an orphan is treated well, for in kindness he excelled. Just like Prophet Muhammad, Ja'far al-Sadiq's truthfulness was known wide and far. It was prohibitable, hence the title al-Sadiq, the truthful one. Equal to his knowledge there was none. For Bani Adam so much was done. You kept Islam true, even while the enemies tried to stop you, the religion still grew. Even when the foes attempt, they couldn't hide. In trials and tribulations, he stood tall. The religion's growth, his legacy's core. His unwavering faith, a shining way. Guided Islam through night and day. With Imam Ja'far's wisdom, where anew. In every challenge, his teachings held true. Ya Abul Qasim, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Imam al-Rahmah, Ya Sayyidina wa Maulana. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
I usually always say just a thank you to all our reciters, but tonight, inshallah, we have a few gifts for them to show our appreciation. So, can Murtada, Sabiri, Ammar, Keshwani, and your son, and Zak Alawi, please make your way up to the stage, please. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And the greatest gift we can give them is the gift of as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. With the passing of Sheikh Tajuddin in our community, we ask that إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات بالخصوص الشيخ تاج الدين الهلالي السيد سمير بوسي وكل المؤمنين والمؤمنات نهدي لهم سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد. And Allah derived for him a name from his name in order that he might exalt him. The Lord of the throne is Mahmud and he is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. With that, please welcome our esteemed scholar, Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi, and for the love of Rasulullah, recite 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون and I have not created the jinn and the men except that they should serve me آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. One of the biggest, if not the biggest problem that we have in this world amongst society, amongst individuals, is the identity crisis. When we say identity crisis, it's this uncertainty and confusion. It's a psychological phenomenon. And it occurs during intervals in our lives, transitions, periods of introspection when we're thinking within. And it can manifest various stages of our life. In our childhood, in our adolescence, as we move from place to place in our life, and we tend to question ourselves. What are our core aspects are? Who are we? And what do we stand for? Every moment, you have this moment in your life, what am I doing? You ask yourself, who am I? What's the purpose of all this? What am I meant to do? Where do I go? And every now and then you reevaluate yourself, what your personal values are, what your morals, your belief systems. And sometimes this leads to a shift in ideology in the way we think. Sometimes you see someone follow a certain pattern or a certain school of thought or a certain perspective they have on life, and that shifts with things. And you notice everyone is an expert before the fact. And after the fact, they are humbled and their perspective in life changes. Everyone thinks they know things, you know, as that saying that they say for Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Something comes across and it will change your whole life, and then your perspective on life changes. Now, these identity crises that we have, they can be triggered by many factors. Major life events. Yani, when someone graduates from school, when they finish school, how many people finish school? They don't know what they're doing. What am I? What am I doing? When they start a new job, how do I act in this new job? It's like, for example, you want to understand if you're younger, when someone first starts playing a game, at first they go, this is so difficult. After they get so good at it, they say it's not a challenge anymore. So at the start, when you begin anything, you don't know where you are, what you are doing. Anytime we experience a significant loss in our life, something great happens to us, a tragedy occurs, or there is a major change in our life when we get married or parenthood, people commonly try to establish what their identity is. So therefore, we have different identities. That's why if you notice, people have these cyber identities. On the internet, their dark side comes out. And they let people know what lurks in the dark part of their minds rather than express themselves like they would express themselves publicly. And even we try and develop professional identities. You know, there's, for example, there's Mohammed Mehdi, me, and then there's Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi. How I represent myself in this manner, how I represent myself. You know, I always say when you're wearing in uniform and out of uniform. How someone is at work. You notice how even you could be the CEO of a company, how you are with your employees, and then when you come home. You're trying to juggle between these identities. And even we tend to have nationalistic identities. So much so where people start to identify even with the sport or the sports club that they follow. If someone says, oh, we traded this guy, or we have some injuries, if they lose, they actually feel the loss. Or if someone says something about the club that they support, because they identify with it, they defend it. And we get the highs with the victories, and we feel the lows with the losses. Now, the problem of having this crisis of what am I? Or who am I? This was solved by Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And this is the answer that everyone seeks. And it's mentioned in various narrations, but this narration that I'm going to use gives you a lot of clarity. This is the descriptive of the Prophet by the other member of the household that we are celebrating his birth tonight, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. He says, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يأكل أكل العبد. That the Prophet would eat like who? Like a slave eats. The food of a slave. He says, وَيَجْلِسُ جُلُوسَ الْعَبْدِ. And he would sit. His posture was the posture of a slave. Why? What's the cause of this? He says, وَيَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُ عَبْدٌ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi knew that he was a slave. This is the problem with people. They haven't understood this identity yet. That your identity is that you are a slave of Allah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi was the embodiment of this. that when God sallallahu alayhi when God Azza wa Jal speaks about the verse in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْ, that I did not create al-jinn wal-ins, that the jinn and ins and the mankind, except that they would serve me. The embodiment of this was Rasulullah. Rasulullah, if you want to see the personification of servitude, the personification of bondage, the personification of slavery, it was in Rasulullah. And he even emphasizes this when we were taught to pray. We say, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. That we testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the slave of Allah before we say the messenger of Allah. He knew his position. He knew his identity. We solved it. Right from the start, without anyone thinking, where am I? Who am I? And what my position is. If we look at the food and what he used to eat. Aklul abd. Another hadith, the Imam says about what is this food? He says, ما زال طعام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله الشعير حتى قبضه الله. That Rasulullah used to eat الشعير. What's sha'ir? You have you have your grains. You have qamah, which is wheat. And then you have, these are the two main grains that people use. Qamah is wheat, and the other one's sha'ir, which is barley. Of these two, people tend to make from them bread. This is the reason behind this. So he says that this is what the Prophet used to eat, barley. And we'll talk about bread a bit more as we move along. And then he says, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يحب من الشراب اللبن. So he would eat barley, and the meaning of this was the bread, and we'll get to that in another hadith. And his drink that he would prefer over all drinks was yogurt. Now, the problem is the celiacs and the people that are lactose intolerant are going to object to this. Then we're saying if you're not, sometimes you can't, there's certain things you're not able to do. But what I'm able to do, I must act upon. The Messenger of God, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, speaks about bread like this. He says, فَلَوْلَا الْخُبْزِ مَا صَلَّيْنَا وَلَا سُمْنَا وَلَا أَدَّيْنَا فَرَائِضَ رَبِّنَا. If it wasn't for bread, we would not pray, and we would not fast, and we would not what? Fulfill the obligations to our Lord. This is where you get your energy from. This is what makes you function in this world. Bread, if you look at bread and the process that it takes to make bread, how long does it take you to make bread? Now, for us, we just go buy the bag of bread. If you had to first, get your, to sow the seed. Imagine you're sowing the seed of the barley bread. And then when the plant comes out, to remove the ears from the plant, and then to sift through them, and then to grind it in the hand mill, then to sift it again, then to grind it again. It's a long process. Then once I have it in its powder form, then I add the salt and the yeast, and then after that I add water, and then it becomes what? Dough. While it's a dough, I need to knead the dough. Once I've finished all that, this whole procedure, if you look, you need the whole process and all the things you need in order to make the bread, then you bake the bread. And it's very recommended for you to make bread from its origin. We have hadith about that. The least thing you can do is purchase the bread. If you look at the world today, there's a big issue, because bread is the staple food of the world. Big issue, why? Where's most of the grain come from? Ukraine and Russia. And what's happening now? Ukraine can't make grain because they're in war, and Russia has sanctions on them so they can't sell the grain. So the rich people, they buy at increased rates. What happens to the poor? They die of famine, which is usually how the system goes. This is the importance of bread and how fundamental it is. Even though modern day health freaks tell you, first thing you say, they say, don't eat bread. You always hear that. Don't eat bread. They prevent you, the first thing they stop you from is don't eat bread. Yet it is this is the food of the slave. This is what gives you all the energy for you to function in your life. The second point is he says about the posture of the messenger of God. His posture was the posture of a slave. He would sit like a slave. In fact, when we say he would sit like a slave, he would sit in a manner where you see people, when they're about to sit and eat, where their legs are crossed, their legs have come together. Some of them, it's where there's opinions on where one knee is down and the other knee is up. Some is where both knees are up, ready, knees are down where he's ready to get up. But generally the one where the knee is down and knee is up, that posture is the posture of a slave. Ready to be of servitude. Immediately get up and serve. Rasulullah would enter a masjid. Like some people when they enter with an entourage. That they make a scene when they enter. Have you seen sometimes someone walks in, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, everyone goes crazy, the person walks in and he walks around, starts waving to people like he's the King of England. I'm here. Makes his entrance. He thinks he's Michael Jordan being introduced for the Chicago Bulls when he enters. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi would enter and take the first opening and sit down. Wherever there's an opening, he would sit down. And he is Rasulullah. When I want to tell you he is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he is the most pivotal and most important creation, not only to us commoners, not only amongst the angels, not only amongst the prophets and the awliya, but even amongst the ma'asumeen, the 14 infallibles. He is the focal point. Yet he walked in and lived amongst the people like he was the least of them. Why? Because he understood his position. He understood his station. He identified with what he was. Nothing more than a slave of God, a servant of God. I am a slave, you are a slave. Might say I'm Lebanese, I'm Iranian, I'm Indian, I'm Australian, but really I'm a slave and nothing more. A slave always knows their place. One of the stories they used to always tell us when we were younger about, and you probably hear this story a lot, you probably heard bits and pieces of it. And one was the story of a sultan at the time in the Ghaznavid Empire, which was in Afghanistan towards India and the Persian region, where his name was Sultan Mahmud al-Ghaznawi. And there was a Georgian slave called Malik Ayaz. Malik Ayaz. Now, when I tell you a story, I want to make this very clear. Some people get confused. When I mention a story, sometimes I mention a quote from Confucius or a quote from Mike Tyson. This is only to give you a perspective, a story. These aren't who we follow. Not this sultan or anyone. We follow Ahlul Bayt. That's it. We're just giving you examples of stories. I don't want people to sit and look up this person and whatever their beliefs are, follow. No. You follow the beliefs of Ahlul Bayt. I'm just giving you an example of a story. This is might be a small digression, but I want to make this clear. Now, this Malik Ayaz was a slave in Georgia, and he was a slave of a merchant. Now, the merchant said that he was in great debt and he was really in a ditch and he couldn't get out. So Malik Ayaz said, take me to the markets, go to where the main center in the empire is of the kings, because the Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi, who is known to be someone that looked for the finer things in life, he said, sell me there and tell people when you sell me that this slave knows the secret to ubudiyya. This slave knows the secret to being a slave and how to be a proper slave. And put my price up. This is how good he was to his master. At 1 million dinars. So when he said, but people won't buy you, he said, no, do as I tell you and see what happens. So the merchant takes him. This is to save his master from debt. The merchant takes him to the marketplace to sell, Malik Ayaz. When he puts him in the marketplace and says that this slave of mine I'm selling for 1 million dinars because he knows Sirr al-Ubudiyya, he knows the secret of bondage, the secret of slavery. So people laugh, think this is a joke. News gets to the Sultan. The Sultan says, I want to see what this is. He says, purchase him and bring him to me. I'm going to extract it from him. So they purchase him. The merchant gets out of his debt and they bring Malik Ayaz. Imagine, like, he's given up his place with this merchant to save him out of debt to go to this king. When he gets to the king, Malik, the Sultan Mahmud al-Ghaznawi used to take the slaves and take them into a dungeon and beat them to make them confess to everything they've done before he takes them into the palace. So they take him inside and they begin to beat him. They're all day, one person after the other, give him a break, the next person starts to beat him. So in the afternoon, the Sultan asked them, the king asked them, okay, what's he fessed up to? What did he confess to? They said, our master, Sayyidi, he hasn't said a word. He said, what do you mean he hasn't said a word? He said, we beat him and he doesn't react. He does not say a word. So he says, bring him to me. They bring him before the Sultan and they ask him, why have you not said a word? Why have you not spoken? And he said, I already told you, I know the secret for ubudiyya. This is what I was sold for. So the Sultan says, what is this secret? They had been beating him, he didn't answer. He said, you are my master, so I will tell you. He said, the secret is I am your slave and you are my master. If you want me to be beaten all day, then so be it. I am happy for this to happen to me. So what do I have to say? Nothing. Because you are my master and this is what pleases you, then let it please you. So then he is so happy with him. So he brings him in his main room, in his main court, and keeps him around. And he gives him position upon position. Now what happens as your rank begins to grow, all those around you, they get jealous. They find that every now and then he will disappear every day and he will go to a room and lock himself away. Because he moves up till he becomes a general. I think the rank he gets to is general. Some say he becomes one of the prime minister or the wazir. So when he's in this room, they tell the Sultan he's plotting against you. He's been stealing gold and hiding it in this room. You know, one person after the other. Eventually the Sultan says, you know, this man is the best servant I've ever had. But he said, let's go check on him. When he enters the room, they follow him and push the door open. As they enter, they find the room is empty and all is there is a mirror and a chair and a little trunk. They said, in the trunk, that's where the gold must be. They open the trunk, inside are tattered clothes. So Sultan says, what is this? He said, I'm a slave. Although I've been given this position, I'm still a slave. Every day I come in here, I take off all the fine garments you've given me, I dress in my slave clothes, sit on the chair, and I look in the mirror to remind myself that I'm a slave. I remind myself who I am, what position I am, what my status is, what my identity is. When he realizes this, he says, then I feel comfortable again, knowing where my origin is. This is applicable to us, and this is a true story. This isn't one story we have a parable. This is an actual true story of these are real people that existed with us. we tend to forget who we are. We go into this world and we encounter khutuwat al-shaytan. We go into this world where we have status, we have position, or wherever we are, around people, we are somebody. Then we come here to remind ourselves who we are, what our identity is. And when we come here, how do we feel? We are so happy when we come here. And that's when people, we're talking to one of the brothers right now, that one of our friends was in Ziyarah, Ziyarat al-Arba'in. He did Ziyarat al-Hussein. After Ziyarah, he went to Lebanon and to come back to Australia. When he went to Lebanon, he wasn't satiated, so he returned back to Karbala. Returned back to Ziyarat al-Hussein. What makes people go there? What makes people go to these places? What makes you enter these places? When one man, he entered Masjid al-Nabawi al-Sharif, and he looked at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He left the masjid, and then he came back and looked at the Prophet. The Prophet called him, come. Because the Prophet used to be surrounded by people. He said, come. The man came to him, and he said, every day you walk in and you look at me, and you leave. But today you walked in, you looked at me, and you left, but you returned for us a second time. What was the reason? Do you have something? And the man said, Ya Rasulullah, every day I wake up, I come to the masjid, and I satiate my eyes by looking at you. Then I go to work. He said, but today my eyes had not been fulfilled. They had not become satiated, so I'd come back in to look at you again. If you notice, you people, think about this. When you come to the majlis of Rasulullah, majlis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, you come here and you see these people, that the volunteers that do all this hard work, the people behind the screens that no one sees, the unsung heroes. Well, I get my picture put up here undeservingly. And all these people that work hard that you see everywhere, that do all the real work, that you don't see. Why do they do it? What makes them come do this? What is it that brings them here? They come to serve. They are dignified when you call someone, imagine you call someone Khadim al-Hussein. They are honored by this title. To be called a servant, they are honored. They are dignified with the title of servant because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi taught us this. How did he teach us? That he was the slave of Allah Azza wa Jal. Obviously, because this is a celebration, I'm not going to talk more than this, but just to finish off, that Allah Azza wa Jal has created you free to choose, but He created you. Inherently, you want to belong to somebody. You want someone to be your master. If you do not choose Allah as your master, you choose somebody else. It's automatic. God is not your master, then your master is your hawa. Allah has chosen you. If you do not worship Allah, then you worship your desires. So you choose between God and anything else, is you're worshiping your desire. You have this freedom. Allah does not coerce you. He's given you the understanding of what's right and what's wrong. You enjoy the benefits of this world, whether you're a believer or a non-believer. Everyone enjoys the benefits of the world. And if you're a slave and you accept your identity as a slave of God, otherwise you are a slave, whether you like it or not, to any master. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says this famous quote, and I'll finish with this. He says to his God, he says to our master, Allah Azza wa Jal, he says, Kafa bi azzan an takuna li rabba. What does he mean by that? Kafa li azzan. When we say kafa, it means suffices, it's enough. It's sufficient enough. It's sufficient, and I'm dignified enough that you are my master, that I get my dignity, oh Allah, by having you as my master. And then he says, وَكَفَى بِي فَخْرًا أَنْ أَكُونَ لَكَ عَبْدًا. Basically, And I am sufficiently proud that I am your slave, he says to Allah. That I'm proud that this is something, when you say fakhran, when you say biftakhir, something that I say it, I'm loud and proud to be what? To be the slave of Allah. I'm proud of this. And I'll declare it to the world. That's why you see when someone wins in a sport, they say, I want to thank God. There's nothing from me, it's all from Allah. Because they know this. And then he says, Anta li kama uhib. You are what I desire in a master of Allah. You are what I desire. Everything about you is what I desire. And then he says, فَوَفِّقْنِي لِمَا تُحِبْ. فَوَفِّقْنِي means guide me or give me providence to what you desire. Make me what you desire. The servant of Allah Azza wa Jal lives the best life. And you want to see this, you see Khaddam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. How do they live? How are they treated? Look at the people that visit Imam Hussein when they go Ziyarat al-Arba'in. They are treated like what? They are the servants of Imam Hussein. And they're treated like this. When you go for the trip of bondage, the Hajj, which is a trip of slavery. Okay, this is what it is. When you go there, Allah mentions you as what? As Wafdullah. You are the delegation of Allah. This is the station of these people. Look at the Imams and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, how they treated their slaves. Imam al-Ridha salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi would eat with the slaves. He would live with them to show people that they and me are the same. We sit together on this level. We're both slaves in the reality of the word. Not where people see them and look down upon the people that lived in these times. So he says, فَوَفِّقْنِي لِمَا تُحِبْ. Give me providence and guide me to what you desire to see in me as a slave. Now, I just wanted to say that this center that you attend, like every center, but this center you attend that functions, the way it functions, it has all these commemorations, these celebrations, these majalis, this center functions with the energy that you give it, your participation, you volunteering, you attending. When you come to the center, you need to treat it as your center. This is your home. You involve yourself when you come to the center. Because this center, every center that's made lillah has a ruh. It has a soul. And on the day of judgment, it testifies of your presence and your involvement. And if you come here, you need to be people that not only attend with your presence, but even any involvement where they need. When they walk in, ask what is required of me. What does the center need? What do I need to give to this center? Because this is a place, and all the places that people attend are places that are made for the remembrance of God. And these are the places of servitude to Allah Azza wa Jal. And these are the places to attend, not for people to sit at home. God bless the people that attend. Really, the people that attend, you are so fortunate. You have been given the tawfiq to attend the majlis. And I mention this over and over again. I know there are people that have excuses for being at home, legitimate excuses. Well, the only legitimate excuses, I'll tell you what they are. Legitimate excuse, I'm sick and I cannot come. And I don't want to bring my contagious disease to infect everyone. Another legitimate excuse, someone is sick in my house, so I'm there to look after them. Any more excuses? What are other excuses for people not to attend? Sometimes people tell me, I don't attend a majlis, I have work. I'll go to your cousin's wedding, you'll take the day off work. So treat it as if you are coming, because this is a celebration for the birth of the Prophet. Whatever other programs there are to attend, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us the tawfiq to attend the majalis of Muhammad wa al Muhammad salawatullah alayhim ajma'een. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the reappearance of our master, Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi. This is our goal, and this is the hadaf we have, is the reappearance of the Imam. So this is what we have to do dua for. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتاكم جميعا ولقضاء الحوائج وقبول الأعمال وشفاء المرضى وغفران الذنوب وتعجيل الفرج وحسن العاقبة. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.